How long can you hold your breath? How far can you run? How long can you push yourself until your body fails? Today on the David Rutherford Show, I have multiple Guinness Book World Record holder, multiple world champion, freediver, longest breath hold, Mr. Stig Severinsen. Sir, thank you so much for joining me today on the David Rutherford Show.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited.
Well, it's funny. I was trying to think back to when Morton and Rebecca first introduced you to me, just like told me about you. And I think it was probably around, I want to say 2015 or 16.
Probably. Yeah.
And I looked you up and I was like, oh my God, I know who that guy is, right? Because I know you had worked with the SEAL teams before and you'd done a lot of work with other elite competitors. But it wasn't until I really went into the world championships and your records where I was like, oh my God, this guy's at a whole nother. And then for me, obviously, a 22-minute breath hold, the first human being to ever do that. Because I've pushed my body to the limits or close to my limits in Hell Week and combat, the appreciation I have for what that means and what it takes to get there. I remember just in awe, mouth open, catching flies with it. Tell me what I think a lot of people, and what I've always tried to do with my show, is to really help the audience figure out the sequence that gets a human being to a place where the idea or the ambition, it's not too far out of reach, where it becomes, this is attainable and I'm going to go for it. So introduce everybody to how that process transpired for you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time, listening or watching the show. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's always, it should be, I guess, a fun endeavor. And of course, a tough journey at times. But it really has just been a natural evolution for me. That sounds easy, of course, to say, but I've always been very fond of water. I did competitive swimming, so that's my background.
You were a four-time national champion at 9,
yeah, when
10,
I was
11,
young,
12.
when I was very young, I got into swimming. I was picked for something called the talent team when I was 5.
Oh, wow.
And from then on, it was just competition. So you can say I grew up in Denmark. I'm Danish with a Swedish mom, but, Scandinavian. And I would say...
So everybody, that means he's a Viking. Just so you know, he's Viking.
So, Viking, but also I would say a quite normal upbringing. That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
Growing up with my parents, and I was fortunate we had a nice swimming pool in my backyard. We also had a boat we could kind of live on and stay on. So very privileged in that sense. But that's why my parents wanted me to be a good swimmer. Because we had the pool and we had the boat, and it's quite cold in Denmark, even though, in the summer. Yeah. So they were like, if this kid falls overboard, we had our safety gear and stuff, but they wanted me to be able to take care of myself. And I have a brother who's 2 years younger than I am. And and we were nice little boys and pretty adventurous, I guess. But they had a great level of trust in us. But they thought it was good we could take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's how that safety element came in.
Okay.
So my mother took me baby swimming, and she had been a swim teacher herself in her younger years. And everything around water just made sense to me. I'm a Pisces, for those of you who are looking Stig Severinsen up on Wikipedia or ChatGPT or whatever. So I'm a Pisces, I'm born 8th of March and 1973. So... I just always loved water and the freedom in water, and I'm a biologist, so my background is that I studied biology, and we can get more into my studies, my PhD in medicine and so forth, but I was always a biologist, if that makes sense.
100%.
Maybe people listening can relate, right? You're always something, or many people, maybe not everyone, but many or most people feel there is something like that's me. I love cars. That's me. I can't get enough of engines and cars.
For me, I've always felt connected to art.
For me, it's not cars. So that's my brother and my father, interestingly enough, but I was nature. There is not like the amount of time. I was just in Dominica. We can get back to that as well for some interesting training, but I was just down there in the Caribbean, and I can just sit and watch. Also here in Florida, you have these little lizards. They're called false chameleons. Anolis carolinensis is the Latin name, so like from Carolina, the anole, and you have them in every tree. Maybe you don't even know so much about lizards or herpetology, but that is like my big, I was almost going to say fetish. That's my big passion, and I'm so fascinated by these living dinosaurs, right? Crocodiles, turtles, like that. They haven't changed for millions of years, millions of years, literally. And the little one, you know, the female, she's smaller and tiny and cute, and they're kind of brown when they're cold, and then when they get excited or heat up, they turn green. Thus the name, the false chameleon. And they have this kind of brown gray, kind of like a long stripe along the back, but it can turn really bright and white. And then the males are bigger, and they do kind of push-ups when they want to impress the females, like we all do, right? Look how strong I am. And then they can. They have this red sac under, kind of like a frog, but this is a lizard, and they dilate it with air, kind of like a breathing exercise.
Interesting.
And it turns red, so it's like, look how strong I am, and I can, you know, present myself in this elegant manner. And down in the Caribbean now, I could just sit during breakfast and watch, and there's no end to how much I could sit and watch these guys. So that's just to tell you how nerdy and geeky I am, right?
Well, I don't know if it's nerdy and geeky. I think it's
well in that specific field.
Yeah, but for me, it's like there's a point in your childhood where you get connected to something, and you don't lose you're not distracted, right? A lot of children, their attention span is much smaller than everybody else.
It's changing for many reasons, social media and all this, I guess. But,
for sure.
But for me, it was this instant connection with nature before I could even put words on it.
Oh, wow.
And I loved everything with animals, their behavior, the way they developed. I would, you know, find dead animals or catch them, have them in aquariums.
You're the kid who comes home and you've got, you know, a small squirrel or a mouse.
I was like, you know, the Natural Museum in London and History Museum was like, go home. You know, I really had the big museum at home. I didn't have so many toys, not that I didn't have, and I had a good childhood, but I had no interest in those technical things, and like Lego, even though it's from Denmark, you know, I had some Lego, but not much. I really had a lot of animals everywhere. So I was interested in finding out how many bones are in them. You know, when the owls throw up the mice because they can't digest every part of the mice, especially you, a guy in the forest, and you know, we know this stuff, but maybe people in the city, they're not aware, but the owls will puke this stuff up almost like a fur ball, like the cat is doing. And I would go and find all this, and I would dissect it and find all the different bones from the mouse.
Wow.
And then I would kind of put the skeleton together and have them in little boxes. And I have them still.
Oh, wow, that's
so
really
anyways,
cool.
Enough about that, but I was always connected to nature. So my point is that I was a biologist before I became one.
Wow.
Now I have a master's degree in marine biology, neurophysiology, yada, yada, yada. I was teaching at university for many years, but...
Neurophysiology?
That was my specialty.
And
marine biology.
Marine biology, anything else?
No, that was kind of the specialty.
That was it.
In biology, but then I went into health science and finished my PhD in medicine. But it was just who I was, and I've always stuck with that. So I think what I was saying, that it was a natural progression, was just I loved animals and nature. I could never get enough of it. I love to study dinosaurs and sharks and read books and
habitats,
all, everything.
Right.
Understanding how they react, and also that's why behavior is interesting, like the psychology behind it and the different survival mechanisms of changing color, hiding, mimicry, looking dangerous, looking poisonous, you know, the colors and butterflies and stuff. So anyways, I was fascinated by that. And then my other fascination as a child was sports, so movement. So kind of maybe looking at all these mice and looking at all these bones and jaws, like, okay, so how's the body working And so I was fascinated by, you can say, anatomy and physiology. And then, of course, when I grew older and studied more, also I lived in Spain, I studied human anatomy and got more and more into kind of what does it take to grow stronger and perform at your highest level. And then the last layer, of course, is psychology. So behavior, habits, good and bad habits. We can talk much more about that. You know, we can talk about it all day. But you know, how do you identify bad or maybe not always bad habits, but things you do every day, things that people do because of society or just because they're not so aware of it, but it turns into, it's like stacking on the good things. It also adds up to being not good. It's maybe not a bad habit in itself, but the outcome is not productive. Does it make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Right? So if you identify those, that's one of my all the nerdy hobbies, whether I work with Navy SEALs or athletes or C-level executives, you know, identifying those things that are easy to change. So you're still doing something like brushing your teeth, for example. You know, so a dentist would tell you, you're brushing it way too hard or your gums are bleeding, right? Just a silly example. So why don't you just turn the toothbrush 45-degree angle, gently massage it and spend half a minute more and don't push so hard. So that is a habit that's good. You're cleaning your teeth, but you're doing it in the wrong way, but you're not aware of it. So the conscious level is not there. And then an expert tells you, do it this way, do it that way. So then you do it that way. It doesn't take longer. You still have to do it, but it becomes what I call a good habit. And that stacks up to a lot of positivity for dental hygiene, your breathing, the air that comes in your lungs, the microflora in your mouth, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth.
Okay, so there's a point where the natural environment, the need to move, they kind of synergize together. You start then swimming. And so as you begin to get, because it sounds like you got good fast. Right?
It
you
was
had a
quite
natural predisposition. You were naturally strong, good fast twitch fibers. You understood training. You were focused. You could pay attention to technique. And that's remarkable for young kids, right? That's the hardest thing when you train kids is the focus on technique, patterning, right? Making sure the execution of the angle with which your hand goes in, right? All of those things. But you somehow had that.
Well, I had good trainers. I'm still connected with my trainer. And he's, of course, an older gentleman, Dag Stormark, and I write wonderful things on his Facebook. Like, I'm so thankful, like when I set a world record or something like, and people write, oh, you're great, this is incredible. I'm like, oh, I would post like, thank you so much for being an inspiration and for really handling us kids, you know, in a really kind way and tough way, but, you know, kind of, you know, stern, but loving. And so I always remember to pay respect to those people. Also, when I played underwater rugby, a game that's not so well known here in the States, but it's like a kind of psycho game.
It's one of the best sports in the world, by the way.
It's holding your breath. I mean, for Navy SEALs and stuff, they should do it more. You know, I think you throw a torpedo or something.
We call it underwater hockey.
No, underwater hockey is something else. That's with the puck and the stick.
Right.
I played that as well. You call it hockey.
We started with, we'd have some kind of like it was almost like a shuffleboard thing. And so we'd use that, put the poles on the bottom. And then it just became the torpedo, killing guys.
I've seen that. But underwater rugby is like that, but it's a ball and it's filled with salt water or sugar, so just dense water. It sinks 1 meter a second, which translates to 3 feet. So it has this density and you can kind of throw it, like hurl it like that.
Right.
And then it's kind of like in a room like this, you know, but it's in 15 feet of water in the deep end of the pool. And you have basic snorkel equipment on. So flippers, a mask with a lot of Velcro, like military style. It's stripped to your face because it's like a UFC fight, right? And you have your protector and your mouth guard. And then there are basically no rules. And of course, this is done on breath hold. And you're just going berserk. So I guess that's why we love it in Scandinavia, Viking crazy stuff, you know. So I played that for 11 years in the Elite Series and then 4 years in the national team. And I played also in Spain when I lived there, underwater hockey. So, but that is excellent training for CO2 resistance. And for lactic acid tolerance, high lactic acid, and for clearance, like to really get
I want to get into that when we talk about the physiology.
We can get back to that. But anyways, those were things that just happened naturally, right? So I zigzagged a little bit here and there, but it was always driven by passion and interest. right? So for me, it has been, when I look back, a natural path. And then I did martial arts also in my youth. So that layered, that psychology / the connection or the bridge to the Eastern philosophy that I then, we can come much more back to that with breathing and everything, but that kind of fostered that foundational understanding of you can say the Eastern philosophy of connectedness between the body and the mind and the spirit that Descartes kind of chopped off the head literally a few hundred years ago, when it was like the divine and the church and then the body and the mind, two separate entities, like not connected. And that is why modern medicine is still kind of not working really well. My brother's a doctor. I have a PhD in medicine. My sister's a nurse. It's not that I don't know. I have greatest respect for surgeons and advanced technologies, but the way of looking at, for example, veterans or treatment or
just performance in general,
or prevention is really flawed because of this 200-year-old paradigm where the mind and the body are separate. So if you have something wrong in your arm or your knee, is like, maybe it stems from something else, or maybe you're not eating right, or maybe so it's not the root cause they're looking at. And it's, I think modern science, without being too cruel, it's very myopic. It's very myopic. And now, thank God, or thankfully, it's becoming broader. There is an open interest, and I think also after COVID and all this kind of weird nonsense craziness happening, people are, and with the AI and online search of information, you can be like your own doctor, or can be your own fitness coach, and you can ask critical questions and find answers that maybe the government or somebody else, pharmaceuticals companies, would not maybe give you those answers for very good reasons, right? No, it's a big thing in the world right now. So all of these things now are opening up. So doctors and scientists, the military as well, I can feel, in those last 10, 15 years that I focused more on C-level executives, business coaching, and like the Navy SEALs, the Danish, the Royal Navy, the Air Force as well, Royal Air Force. I also trained the fighter pilots here, the F-35 fighter pilots, because we're shifting from the F-16 Fighting Falcon to the F-35. So, and getting all that to Scandinavia and Europe for the new alliance. So I was training them out in
that's very cool,
in the base here. So there's an openness even in the military to take in new information and look at the old historic ways of doing things.
Do you think that the connection to nature, the connection to water? For me, I've always had a connection to water too. Growing up here in Boca, on the beach since I was a baby, right? In the water, growing up surfing, diving, snorkeling. Like there's a emotion, there's a fluidity, there's a power that extends, there's a connectivity, the currents. And then as soon as you go under the water, it's like, oh, wow, this is a whole world.
It's a different world, different universe almost,
And those things mixed with this competitive spirit, right? Do you think that was obviously a great foundation for you to move on to higher education, higher competitiveness, but what was the catalyst to where you're like, oh, my competitive spirit is not just going to maintain at this point. I want to be the best.
I get it. I know exactly what you're fishing for. No, but so let's just say it was a natural path for me, and I picked, things by passion. And I was good at what I did. And when you're good at something, it's fun. And when it's fun, you become good at it. It's like a positive cycle, right? And ever since a kid, besides of nature, I loved holding my breath. And I just found out when I was very young in our pool that I could hold my breath quite long, and we would have this game where I threw in little plastic animals because I loved animals. So I had like a million different things in plastic, and these rubber animals, right? I had like hundreds of them. Loved them. Dinosaurs, sharks.
Everything. For me, it was my G.I. Joe men. We do quarters or pennies.
Same thing. So we would have like baskets, and we would like collect like 2 or 3 baskets on one breath hold. And I would do it with my brother, who's 2 years younger, like I mentioned. And then we would do it with our neighbor, who, interestingly enough, totally out of context, but went on to become a special forces operator. Special forces.
In Denmark?
In Denmark,
I worked with the Danish.
But random, right?
Yeah.
So we little 3 boys, little children, had this little club, freediving club,
Right.
and we used something that people watching today probably don't know what is. Some of the older generation will know, but it was called a typewriter, and the kids are like, "What the hell is this?" But with your fingers, you would type on kind of a machine with some little dials, and then a little steel thing would spring up, and there would be a letter on a paper. And it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm actually not, because many people don't know what a typewriter is. But that is how you're typing on your phone. You would have little arms coming up, and everything would be a letter. And if you type wrong, you had to put some white paper and click again, and then make it kind of white, and then hit the right key, and the ink would be on the paper. So we did little cards, because my dad was a businessman. He had this machine.
Yeah.
So we did like little James Bond cards. We laminated them. We were like super proud. We have a little club.
Oh, wow.
We're in the...
You had like business cards.
Of course, like with it. No, just
cool.
for ourselves,
That's
but
cool.
like FX agent something, because it was the time of James Bond.
Yeah.
Ian Fleming's, great in the mid 70s or early 80s.
Roger Moore.
And
Spy Who Loved Me was one of
all
my
that
first
stuff
favorites.
was like some of the first movies.
Yeah.
So anyways, back to your question, your very good question. So I loved holding my breath, and I found out it was very natural, and that stillness when you get in the ocean. And then because I love to hold my breath, I found out I could explore even more. Yeah. So every summer, there was another lucky piece of the puzzle. That was my parents always went to the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Because Denmark, even though it's beautiful and
cold
in the summer, it's nice, but we don't have so much sun because we have winter and spring and autumn, long and dark and rainy and cold. So most or many Europeans, northern Scandinavian people, go to the Mediterranean, Spain, Italy, Yugoslavia, as it was called, beautiful area that time. Still is, of course, but we would go there for 2-3 weeks. So my brother and I would just venture out and go, and we got spear guns and little knives, and we felt so proud. So the more I could hold my breath, the more I could explore. Yes. So that was driving me, and today I'm a member of the Explorers Club, and it led to a lot of other things. So it was always a natural process. But then to your question, how do you go from that to that? It happened, I would say, from the childhood, but then 2 things happened.
Great.
2 or 3 things, like milestones. So one was that I moved to Spain. I studied at university there. I studied human physiology, but that was just kind of whatever. And I learned Spanish, which has been a great gift ever since. A Latin language, right? You can speak Portuguese, Italian, French, whatever. It's all kind of the same core. But besides of that, I got into spearfishing more. And then we started freediving because I lived in Barcelona on the coast. And maybe on the side of that, I should say, I actually grew up in Florida, Pensacola Beach. So I had the same as you, with graduating high school, surfing, living on the beach in Pensacola Beach on that beautiful snow white beach. And I would surf every day, dolphins, stingrays, everything. So, just beautiful, and having that connection and getting strong. And we had a lap pool as well. So I would swim there. So I was in pretty good shape at that time, and having physical education every day as well, which I think is great in the American system, that you actually move the body and had training every day. So when I moved to Spain, I picked up a magazine to learn Spanish. So this is how random it is. I'd been there for a few weeks. I was at something called American British College. I paid myself to learn. Sorry for kicking you.
Yeah, right.
I learned, I wanted to learn a little bit Spanish. So I saw this colorful magazine called Apnea, which in Spanish means breath holding, and in English as well. But it's a Greek word, not breathing or no air. So like sleep apnea. It means without air, without breathing. So I picked up this magazine, colorful, beautiful, right next to that kind of college where I paid and went myself to learn some Spanish before I got admitted to the university to study for a year. I didn't even know Spanish because I'm a little bit silly. I'm like, I'm going to go to Spain. Well, I don't, and I'm even so dumb. But this is before ChatGPT, and we had these typewriters, remember? So I didn't know that in Barcelona they spoke Catalan. Mm-hmm. Catalan is not Spanish.
No, it's different.
And so, so I had to learn 2 languages, and then there were because of all the things that had happened in the 70s and all the kind of dictatorship and all those things, it was not allowed to speak their language. So the older generation, which were the smart people and the educated people, were teachers now again. Mm-hmm. And because of Franco and all that with the dictatorship, they were so upset that they had this long period where they could not have the freedom to speak their own language and live their culture and historical, heritage. So they were very, I wouldn't say snobbish, but very adamant about only speaking Catalan at the university when they were teaching.
Okay.
So I had to just learn.
Wow.
I was like backpedaling and writing. I didn't know if it was Spanish or Catalan. I just wrote it down. But anyways, I picked up this magazine, and now maybe it begins to get a little bit interesting. And I saw this like World Championship in Sardinia. And this is in 1998-99. Exactly 1998. I picked up this magazine and I stayed there for 1 year. So it had been the summer championship in 1998 in Sardinia, a small island near Italy or part of Italy. And I looked at the times and the depth and I was like, I could be in the mix. So that was my first. I think I've never told anyone actually.
You just were like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah, but I was like, so maybe that is the first step.
Lifetime of, and it's not arrogance, right?
No,
it's none
it's
of that.
just,
it's like, oh,
I felt
that's
it was
doable.
within reach. Yeah, exactly. So I get your question.
Yeah.
So we have to explain to people like how it happened. So I was like, okay, so I got curious. So then I started training more and more on land. By the way, never hold your breath alone underwater because you can lose consciousness and black out and drown. Not dangerous if somebody's there to fish you out, but if you're alone, then, we unfortunately lose a lot of people every year, especially training for the military because they push themselves.
Well, I mean, I can't even tell you.
Yeah, it's sad. It's
50-meter underwater swims.
Yeah.
We would do, knot tying, even combat swimmer, some of the drills. I mean, it was almost every evolution, which could be 3 to 4 hours, somebody's getting pulled up.
And nothing happens. You're not getting brain damage. Nothing happens. But if there's not anyone to pull you out and you do it alone or in the evening after swim drills or, the coach is gone, and especially young men, they're like invincible, I'm Superman, and they push themselves. They really want to get into the, military or maybe the Navy SEALs or Special Forces. So please don't do that. It's very important. I lost my best friend 2012, and I'm still like very moved by it, but I'm also using it as a good fuel for safety. And I did the safety for the World Championships many years ago, and I really got into that world. And I'm kind of adopted into the family. Alex had 2 brothers, so they're like my brother. They call me Super Brother, Super Stig, Super Brother, and Super Little Brother because they're older than me a few years. And then his mother, I'm like, that's also like an extra mother to me. And I'm like a part of Alex's. We were like spiritual brothers.
That's beautiful.
So we lost him in 2012, August 6th. And he was very cautious and a biologist and smart and marine biologist, a teacher. So it can happen to even the best.
The best of the best.
Yeah, he actually went to retrieve a fin a lady had lost. He was also a scuba diver instructor. And he was like, yeah, I'll just go out and get it. And that's the number 1 rule, never dive alone. That's right. And whether it was the current or too many repetitive dives or he was exhausted from a long day, we don't know. They didn't find him until the next day. They did recover the body. So we had a memorial here in 2022 and threw pellets in the water and went down, and scuba divers and free divers down and let these pellets go from rose pellets, and they were floating in the Catalan colors, yellow and red and white, and just covering the water. And yeah, I can get all emotional, but it was like a kind of grayish day in Spain, northern Spain. And for that hour and a half, when the water, he drowned near a rock, and the sky just opened.
Yeah.
Crazy. All gray and dark and like kind of like a little bit uneasy energy, and that hole just opened, and we had light and sun just for an hour and a half. When we sailed back in, it started raining.
Beautiful.
Crazy. Somebody was watching.
No,
Somebody's watching. And he was really spiritual and like angelic energy already on, when he lived this life. So he went on to the next. So I have him with him in my heart and a lot of stuff I do. So we trained. And then what happened was...
You met him when you started?
No, we became good best friends.
Oh, so
we trained together in Spain.
How did you find where to train?
No, at university.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they had a great diving club. So I played underwater hockey, and that's how I got into the national team. And we played in '99 in the European Championship.
So you were already on the edge of this whole world.
Well, I had already played underwater rugby on the national team for many years, so it was an easy fit to go into underwater hockey. And then, so I picked up this magazine. That's step number one. I grew up in Florida, maybe, and all the swimming. But then the second thing was that I played underwater rugby, and I was getting better and better. I went to the national championship, so I was on the what we call the Elite Series for many, many years. I think 11 years or so, but 4 or 5 years I played on the national team. But I was not so big, and I was fast and strong and explosive, and I could hold my breath. But, you know, there's a limit to it because you have so high levels of CO2.
Oh my God.
And that's what's driving your breathing reflex. So, you know, even though you think you're Superman, you got to get up and breathe. But I was not like the body, I was not so big. There were like some huge guys. And so I had a trainer who was not a brilliant trainer, but he was okay. He was a nice guy. But he was not like a super talented trainer. He was a national coach. It's also often in these small sports, it's just kind of the guy who picks it. He does it. Like he is it.
Yeah. Like, I love this. Let's build the league.
His name was Tony. Yeah, Tony. Nice guy. But he told me in 2003, because we had in 2002, we had the World Championship. We had the Nordic Championship 2002, and I went to Norway, and it was really interesting representing Denmark. Wow, all these big guys. And then in 2003, we had the World Championship in Denmark in underwater rugby near my hometown.
Yeah, wow.
And I was like, wow, imagine if I could represent Denmark, and this could be, and maybe I could select it, maybe not. I played on the national team, but we also have reserves. Maybe I was not picked as the first draft, right? And he said to me, Stig, because I'd already started training them in yoga, breathing, underwater swimming, the national team swimmers that were much bigger and stronger than me, but they started listening already then. And he said, you know, Stig, you have this special gift. You're an okay player, you know, you're a good player, but you're not great. And you don't have the body for it. You're not big enough. You're not explosive enough. And, you know, these are like 250 pound, like just true Vikings, right?
True Viking. You're like just a notch below. Yeah, that's the way I feel about the guys at SEAL Team 6. Like I'm just a notch below, right?
You know, and he said, you know, you have this special gift, so you should give it your best, everything. Give it all your attention, because you're kind of riding two horses, and I was, because I started freediving in 98, 99 in like the breath hold training in Spain. And what also happened in Spain was at that time, since I was at the study, you know, I was studying biology and human physiology and anatomy, we also started doing a lot of tests. So I had my heart scanned. I did a 7-minute breath hold in an MR scan.
Oh, wow.
They would draw blood samples at the same time, because it wasn't so strict at that time.
Yeah.
We were like just little guinea pigs. And I continued then when I came back home to Denmark and finished my PhD in medicine. Yeah. So at that time, it wasn't like a big deal with waivers and all that stuff. You just went into the lab, called the professor or your friends, and you started measuring stuff, right?
Yes.
Kind of like biohacking today.
Yeah, the way it should be, the way science should be, right?
The original way of being the guinea pig. So you know, then I trained and I got selected for the Danish national team in a few years before. I'd been selected for the national team in 2000 for the first World Cup in freediving in Nice, and I got selected, and that was great. And then I started setting Danish records and then some Nordic records, 56 meters. I remember in a lake, like in a quarry, dark and cold and all. But that is actually the key question.
The first like record you went for was in that quarry.
Yeah, well, it was different records, and not to make it too complex and stuff, but I did Danish records. So now you ask me, so how does it become natural? You know, I saw this magazine in the year of 98. Then I trained 99. Then in 2000 I got selected. Then 2001 and 2 I was still playing underwater rugby. So I was in superb shape, you know, and I was 30 years old.
Yeah,
right. I'm born in 73. So peak, you know, age, peak body, everything really well trained and great cardio. And very interested then at that point in breathwork and yoga. And I went to India and I found a teacher, or rather a master found me in Spain from Argentina, like an Argentinian breath master, yoga master. And he initiated me, and I got my mantra, and I got my special secret like initiation. Right. And so by random chances, I connected all this. And then in 2003, I kind of gave up on the dream of joining the national team.
Okay.
And
based on what your coach had offered you, right?
So I went all in on the freediving because it's difficult to do both freediving and underwater rugby, because underwater rugby is the best training. It's been chosen like the most crazy mad sport several times in a row, like the most extreme of all extreme sports. And it's fun and it's wild, but of course it's so high energy and adrenaline and high tempo that it does not fit very well into the stillness and the quietness of freediving. So it's a great trainer and it's a great precursor, but to do it simultaneously is not work. It's not so good.
Because it's a different consciousness that you're doing,
like opposite energies.
Got it.
So for the training and preparation, perfect. So I stopped that. I skipped the team, and the next year, within 6 months, I beat 3 world records.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
in less than a year.
Well, I had prepared from 2000, 2001 and 2.
Okay.
And I had an attempt that equaled the world record that was then not recognized, and that pissed me off. It should have been.
Yeah.
And I took blood samples and urine samples and everything because I know doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't recognized, and it pissed me off. So then, you go to work, and then I trained even harder for that 1 year from 2002 to 3. And in
that specific record.
Well, there were 3 records. One was swimming in a pool. That was my first world record. So it's always like your first love, right? Yep. I'm a swimmer naturally. So breaststroke and medley, which is the 4 disciplines mixed, and butterfly. Those were my disciplines. But I was strongest in breaststroke. That's like my body type.
Well, your breaststroke, like watching your videos, is like it's absolute poetry.
Yeah,
man. And it's one of the coolest things. Your body symmetry, your hydrodynamic, like the way you stretch out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's so like I was a tank in the water, right? And
well, thank you. You're very kind. You're very kind.
Beautiful to watch.
But I love it, And for me, it has to be like a ballet. You have to present. You have to, show the grace and that you truly love it. And it was just a natural discipline for me. So I chose the record for longest swim in a pool because in Denmark we are surrounded by water, but it's cold and quite shallow. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of pool training. So I went for the discipline of the longest swim, and I beat the world record by like a length. Wow. Doesn't matter how much. And then a few months after, I was the first to pass 200 feet in depth. I did that in Venezuela, in national park there in the Caribbean. No fins. Same. So instead of swimming in a pool, I went deep. No fins. I was the first to break the 200 feet barrier.
Oh my
unassisted.
gosh.
61 meters in the metric system.
And what, did you have a suit on?
I had a wetsuit on, but I didn't have to. I could have gone without it, and I trained also without it sometimes. So but just not, like you sit there, arms and legs.
The wetsuit isn't a piece of the component, like there isn't
it depends on the temperature and if it's in a salt or freshwater lake or cold or whatever you prefer. There are also people that put the wetsuit on in the pool because then they can put more weight on because they have buoyancy with the suit, and they can and when they have more weight on, they have more momentum in the glide. But now we're really down geeking and nerding. But that's what I train the Navy SEAls. That kind of stuff is what I train them so they can optimize their movement and their glide and stealth and all that. So, but anyways, it's too many details and too many records and stuff.
These are what people love to hear are the details.
But then I set those 3 records, and I was also the first the same year to break 200 meters, which is another, like, we like these numbers, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So in Holland.
Well, metrics, right? In all performance, it's metrics.
Yes.
Right? All measurement.
My legs are too long. I don't know.
So, but that's the component, I think, of that competitive spirit.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily I'm competing against this other person, although that's in there. And we could end with the story of what you did this past week with your friend. But like that spirit, right?
Yeah.
You're competing.
Yeah.
You're competing against that depth. You're competing against the water. You're competing and then mostly competing against yourself.
Yeah, but to wrap up on your great question that is like 20 minutes gone, what were the pieces of the puzzle? Natural background, growing up, finding this magazine, thinking I might be able to be in the mix. That's the first thing, seeing you can do it, visualization, imagery, believing in yourself, not being cocky, but kind of relating to it.
Yes.
And it was like, that's made, for me, that discipline, that's great. And the breaststroke, you have to adapt it when you dive deep. It's not the same as on the surface because the air and pressure but you adapt it. It's nerdy, fun. Excuse me. And then I did some national records and then the Nordic record, and then comes the point. Then you are like, well, maybe I should go for a world record, right? And that is where you start to segregate or take the next step, both mentally, the way you train, the way you approach things, and the way you stack things in your training and get more and more in, but maybe in a smarter way. You often, well, I did, and that's what most people with success do, you reach out for the best people in the field, right?
Cool.
So I reached out for a guy that I knew from the underwater rugby team who was the goalkeeper, and he's like a phenomenal athlete. We're still great friends this day, Bo Jacobsen. He's been like the best trainer of Denmark, like I don't even know, 10 times in swimming. But he was a 4 times world champion in fin swimming, like this dolphin swimming.
Yep.
Extremely fit, you know, like 6-pack, like 4, you know, and just strong legs and just like a machine. His sister, who was born same year as I was, and I swam with her competitively when we were younger, she's still to this day the most winning swimmer of all times of Denmark, Mette Jacobsen. So people in swimming will know her. She's kind of an icon in swimming.
Okay.
She's been in 4 Olympics.
Oh,
4 or maybe 5.
Wow.
One of the few athletes to be in more than, I think she's
Her
been
and
to
Dara
5.
Torres are the only ones that ever did 5, right?
Yeah, well, she did 4 or 5, or maybe she was going to the 5th. But anyways, it's quite remarkable.
1 is incredible.
So it's a long career. It's a long career.
Yeah.
So anyways, I trained with Bo, and I trained with another guy called Alex, Denmark. Funnily enough, his name is the same as Denmark. It's not like a joke or some name he took. That is his real surname. So he was a junior world champion as well in his fin swimming. So I look for the best people to help me and train me and teach me the styles, the techniques. Where do you get these monofins from? Russia, from, you know, Novosibirsk, like in the middle of nowhere. I guess it's like you guys like sourcing material and
everywhere
and
in the world.
Weapons and knives. It's like you got to get the best from this, that. So you really go nerdy and all that. And then I think this next evolution in your mind, you're like, okay, I'll go for the world record. And then at that point, it is not a competition against the other athletes, and that is the fun part. It is really
explain that.
Well, it's a, like you said, it's a dance with nature or with your physiology or mind, but it's a competition against yourself. So it's like your shadow, right? And you always want to become better, and you always, you know, find out how you can adjust things and fine-tune things. And that is the kind of the same nerdy passion I have for those reptiles. You know, you look at them, what do they do? What is the outcome? How do they change strategy or color? Or like, what about the, you know, temperature around the eggs? And what does that mean for the young ones and the survival and like, it's like, there's no end to how fun it is, you know, to nerd in these things. And when it's psychology and big goals or your personal dreams and maybe team dreams if you're, you know, having people around you, and then technique and understanding physiology, biology, neurophysiology, anatomy, and then working with the best scientists as well. So I would do different breathing exercises and different drills, and then we would measure the outcome on the blood, on the brain, on the lungs, on the spleen. Scan,
I love it.
Took all that stuff.
So
I even injected, let's just say one thing, just because you're in this world, and I guess people are quite interested in extreme things, you know, here as well. Scientists injected radioactive isotopes into my bloodstream.
Right.
To follow it and trace it into my brain when I was doing 7-minute plus breath holds in a scanner. And they would have all these measurements at the same time and see how the oxygen was consumed.
Yes.
And where.
And where.
At which rate in the brain during a breath hold.
Oh my God, that's cool.
So
all right,
I mean,
now you just totally
so it was
distracted
really
me.
Frankenstein training.
Let's talk the physiology of what you did. Let's talk about what makes the body capable of your deepest you ever went was 200 meters.
200 feet.
200
I went
feet.
deeper than that, but that was unassisted. There are many different disciplines, so I can explain it quickly. You either hold your breath for a long time.
Yep.
It's called static because you're static. You're not moving, and we can also get back to that. But that's where I was
you
the
did
first.
The 22.
Right? But I was the first person on this planet to pass the 20-minute mark.
Jesus.
And again, we have these, and I think, you know, whether it's feet or a metric system, as humans, we're kind of dumb, or we're kind of, I don't know. It's like with money, you want to make $1 million. Why not 958,000? Isn't that enough? Like you can buy a car. No, it has to be $1 million, and we have the same, you know, numbers for whatever reason.
Well, don't they represent I mean, it's just like
they represent something.
Well, I go through, 3 years, 4 years of training, and I've done all the training to be a SEAL, but I'm not a SEAL until I get my trident, right? Or you do all this training, you do the dives, but you're not a world champion until you're a world champion, right? And so these benchmarks are required, I think, as a core motivator.
Yeah,
right?
You're right. I'm like a little bit like flippant about it or joking about it, but it is kind of silly that we have these goals.
It's completely silly.
So we see this, and it can be a good driver, but also dangerous, for all reasons. It's like, but anyway, so it changed a little bit from doing normal records, I would say. So static is the breath holding. When I say the 20 minutes, I did 20 minutes, 10 seconds as the first human on this planet. And in an official attempt, that was a world record and recognized by Guinness and everything. I did it in a shark tank.
Yep. You can see this video is available on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube, everything on the Breathology channel there. But I did it in a shark tank because, as you can tell, despite being 50 plus, I'm very childish still, and I don't mind. I'm very curious and very, open-minded. And I knew that it's damn boring to watch someone hold their breath for 20 minutes. Like, there's no kid, no matter their ability to sharks in there.
That's the entertainer in you.
Are they gonna get him? Because they were down in this tank, like they have like tubes, and you can go under, like in these aquariums, and I was like, great, these kids can watch me, and it was a phenomenal success for that aquarium, and they loved the event. Cool. So I did 20 minutes, 10 seconds in 2010 to make it memorable, and again, numbers, and to make it geeky, but also to make it like my artwork. So it was not 20 minutes and 11 seconds. It was not 20 minutes and 9. I programmed myself, and I was at the edge there. It was like the end of it.
Well, you saw your body kind of reacting.
So I did it as 2010, like the number, to make it easy for the journalists to remember, and it was April 1st, to make it like unbelievable. Like, of course, a guy held his breath for 20 minutes in a shark tank. Sure. But then I did.
Yeah, on April
And that's
Fool's,
the child in me that's like...
Dude, I love that aspect of you, Stig. Like,
so,
you have a playfulness in it as well, too.
Well, that's when I started. Before, it was more world records, and so static is the breath holding, but it's important to explain to people, this is a Guinness World Record where you pre-oxygenate.
Okay.
So you are allowed to breathe oxygen, pure oxygen. Everybody has seen them at the swimming pool. You have this orange tank and like a plastic thing, and if people need it, they can put pure oxygen. Or you see it at hospitals with older people or patients, right? If you really need to breathe, get a lot of air in and some oxygen especially, then you put on this mask and flush, extra oxygen. We have only 21% oxygen in the air around us, 20.9 to be exact.
So what does the breathing of the oxygen do for the lungs?
That saturates your lungs. It saturates your blood, your interstitial fluids, to be even more nerdy, which just means the water in your body and between your cells. So you have this liquid in your body. People know we're mostly made of water, right? Like almost 70%, 80%. So we have all this fluid, and you can have more oxygen in that because oxygen dissolves in liquid. So it's just to explain it, it's not the same as people at home trying to hold their breath for 2-3 minutes. That's different. But then the static, then you have dynamic, which is moving, and in the swimming pool, and then you have the depth disciplines, and there are various disciplines like pulling down a line, it's called free immersion, or going on the sled, called no limits, and you have a variable weight where you go on the sled, but you have to swim up. That's why it's called variable. So it's varied. You go down, but you come up yourself. And then I think the disciplines that I started on when I beat the Wim Hof record back in 2010.
And by the way, I got an opportunity to interview Wim back when I did a podcast with Marcus Luttrell called The Team Never Quit. And what a character, first and off, but he has this same vibrancy about nature that you do. And I really think and hopefully we'll move in as we talk about breathology is the beauty that breathing gives us, right? And the power of it and the strength.
Absolutely.
And he was the first person I had ever met. Like, we had talked about breathing. We had a freediving champion come in and work with us when I was first in the teams. And so it was but it was more like a functional thing. But he was the first one to really encapsulate, hey, this is a therapy. This is the essence of our existence. And I was like, he's talking like, and he's kind of a wild guy.
He made it very accessible, and with the app, and people started taking cold showers. But again, being a swimmer and breaststroke, speaking of, again, random things, I saw on YouTube, Wim Hof was absolutely not known in 2010.
At all.
Crazy guy, big bear, looks like a troll, big shorts, he's swimming
walking
under
barefoot.
It's like, this is a wild man, And I just saw that clip on YouTube. And mind you, this is 2010. I don't even know when YouTube came. It was just a few years before. So I saw this random clip, and I'm like, again, I can probably beat that record,
I love it.
Because I'm a breaststroke swimmer. It's my discipline. I love holding my breath. Like I mentioned, I didn't get too much into it, but as a child, we had all these games, right?
Yeah.
And then we had the same in swimming, where we have shark and goldfish. So there's one goldfish and the others are sharks, and then you have to swim from one end to the other, and the sharks have to catch you. And I was often the little goldfish. So everybody else got caught, but the last guy standing, or woman standing, is a goldfish. So I was often the last one, and everybody, goldfish turns to a shark when they catch you.
Yeah.
That was my favorite game. We played it once a year at Christmas because it was pretty serious training.
Right.
At the elite series, or like the competitive. When I did swimming, it was not just like fun and games, but at Christmas we could play this. So all that stuck with me, and the underwater rugby was just an extension of this game, right? Just with the ball and balls, I would say. Like a lot of muscle, but it was the same game: chasing, holding your breath, being tactical, sneaky, fun, kind of theatrical, and it was just the same. So I just had this knack of holding my breath, and I had an ability to relax, and that is what I today call relax on demand. I kind of coined this concept. But so I saw this record in 2010, so maybe even more interestingly, to talk about the mental skills, on 6th of March, 2 days before my birthday, I did the Guinness World Record of the longest dive under ice. Randomly, we had an ice winter in Denmark. We don't have that always. Finland and Sweden have more ice. It's colder, closer to Siberia and the North Pole, right? Denmark is more like Germany, Holland. It's not so cold. It's wet and it's dark, but it's not like super cold. It's more like New York, right? It's not snowy. It's more wet and cold. So, but in this ice winter 2010, we had 3 months of sub-zero. So I was like, this is brilliant. I can train. And I'd seen this video on YouTube, and I can train under ice and have the security and divers and train. And I did. In Scandinavia, we do a lot of like skinny dipping, or go in the ice and make a hole and jump in, and then we go in the sauna. It's very famous from Finland.
100%.
Finnish sauna.
Russian, Finland,
Russia as well, jumping in the rivers, going in the sauna, rolling in the snow. So blood vessels dilate in the warm sauna. Then you go in the cold water. So it's a phenomenal cardiovascular training.
Right.
That's why people are never sick. The immune system gets boosted. And that was all this Wim Hof talked about, this immune system and the ice. And that's why also a lot of older people, like senior citizens, it's a super cure for them, or at least to stay fit, to go in the water, because the cardiovascular system is what declines with age. Like many other things, bone density and muscle strength and so forth, it declines, and use it or lose it, right? So water, and cold water especially, gives you this kind of extra superpower, and that's what Wim Hof was so good at getting out to the world. But then I beat that record, and it was 6th of March, and I used that record, and I'm serious about this, I used it as a mental tool to see how tough I could get in the cold water, swimming longer and longer distances, withstand the pain, when the muscle fatigue sets in, the diaphragm's pumping and punishing you, and like screaming for air, like breathe, you're dying, you need to breathe now, and overrule that and stay calm under pressure, and lactic acid going through the roof, pH dropping through the floor, and why does the
lactic acid explode, and why does your pH balance collapse?
Well, because you can't breathe. You're not breathing, but you're working. So the mitochondria, your metabolism is just on overdrive, but you can't breathe out. And you can't exchange the air, so you don't get the CO2 out and fresh oxygen in. And when you don't have oxygen, you go past VO2 max, and you start creating lactic acid as a last reserve of energy. It doesn't last long, but it gives you a little extra push. So you have to be very tolerant of lactic acid, and the more you train it, the more you can clear it. So the clearance rate becomes better, your organs become optimized, and then we move into yoga and all this and that. on April 1st, I did that 20-minute 10 Guinness World Record, but 6th of March, which was like, a month before or 3 weeks before, I did that ice record. And it really was a training to become mentally strong enough to not breathe for 20 minutes.
Oh.
So I used that cold water and that type of training and that unpleasantness to... I don't care about sharks. That was like a gimmick. They were big, but I'm not afraid of sharks.
No, right.
They don't eat humans. They eat fish.
That's right.
But so that wasn't like to be a Superman or being like, oh, I'm cool. Not at all. It was more for the kids, for the show and for that aquarium, to promote their aquarium and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was a great training for me mentally to be, strengthening my mind and becoming tough, you can say, flexible and kind to yourself, but still darn tough not to breathe for 20 minutes, because it is a provocation, to kind of explain to yourself, I think I can be the first out of 7 billion people on this planet not to breathe for more than 20 minutes. It is a long time not to have movement in your body.
Well, and that's the other thing. What I love is when you really discuss that parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So in that circumstance, you're literally almost putting yourself into paralysis, if I'm correct, right? And then your body, you're slowing your heart rate down as slow as you can get. So the transfer of oxygen into hemoglobin is at the lowest rate it could be. Yeah. And you're almost in a catatonic state, I would imagine. That's what you're
call it meditation underwater. I coined that many years ago. And it is, you can say catatonic. You're shutting everything down.
Yeah.
Your digestion, of course, you don't eat before, you have fasting before, you don't want blood in your gut, you don't want to digest food when you're trying to use that oxygen to keep your brain alive and stay, conscious.
How long did you have to fast for?
Well, it's up to you, but I just fasted from the day before. But you change your diet and you go more on, it's a long story with the diet. That's a whole nother podcast, and we can nerd about that. I love, when I help coach athletes and stuff, but there are lots of things you can do, like spinach or greens or broccoli and things that naturally have a lot of nitrogen on precursors for nitrogen oxide or nitric oxide, as you say in the US, NO, that is produced in your mucous membrane in your nose. And when you're nose breathing, you inhale it naturally into your lungs, and they are vasodilators. It's not even like 15 years ago, the Nobel Prize was given to 3 researchers. Nobel Prize of the discovery of the first time they found that a gas molecule could act as a signaling between different things in your body. So you produce it somewhere, but it has a signaling effect, and it's a vasodilator. So it relaxes the smooth muscles. So it opens the blood vessels in the alveoli in the lungs, and you take up more oxygen.
Wow.
And on top of that, it's antiviral, antifungal, and antibacterial.
The nitrogen.
The nitrogen oxide, because it's like a poison.
Right.
But of course you produce it because nature is magical and divine. It produces it at the right level of toxicity or the right level of concentration that can kill these germs and things, but doesn't harm you. So mouth breathing is absolutely a no-go for many other reasons. Also now when we talk about prevention and staying healthy and performing at the highest level. So so you can eat foods that help you with those things as well. Okay, so as you are moving forward, you're just like knocking these things down. Oh, I'm going to try that. That looks cool. I'm going to try it. It's an intuitive motivation to pursue these things. You're getting better and better at training. And everything becomes a project. Right. Like you go on a mission, right?
Yes.
It's always a new project. Like, who can I find? Who can I reach out to? Who can help me with that? Which diet should I shift? What should I try? And the great thing about freediving is it's so, like the payoff is so... It's so direct. Like you just measure 2 things, distance or seconds. Nothing else. And that is maybe one of the biggest breakthroughs or biggest insights I've had of doing this training, and then my great interest in yoga and timeless wisdom, you can say meditation or, oriental wisdom, is that you have this connection with breathing, and breathing is life. That takes in the air, and then the oxygen produces energy in the mitochondria, and the red blood cells, so the hemoglobin carries those 4 little oxygen molecules like a car, like a little vehicle. There are 4 points of connection with the oxygen molecules, and it's distributed to every single cell.
Every cell in your body.
30 trillion cells.
That's right.
Every one of them needs oxygen to produce energy in the mitochondria. They're just little energy factories, like batteries. They're called mitochondria. Mitochondrion in singular, but mitochondria. A little energy machine, and the same you see in plants. In the green plants, it's just photosynthesis is the same. It's just running a little bit differently, but the sun shines and they have water, but then they use our oxygen. They use our CO2, carbon dioxide, and they produce oxygen.
Yes.
So it's called a symbiotic relationship, why we need plants and feel good in nature, and especially in the forest, right?
Yep.
So, but anyways, then you kind of nerd into all that, and then what I found, which is
it's interesting that you talk about the problem set. Like it's a problem, it's a mission that you come together and find the solutions by collating.
But it's fun. I just challenge. I call it a challenge, not a problem. I don't think I said the problem.
Good point. Good correction.
Never have problems. I have challenges.
Yeah. So
I never have problems.
I just interviewed this guy that set the new record for the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
Unassisted. One direction. He did it in 45 days, 8 hours, and like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Beat the one by a few hours, right? And that's the way he described it.
Yeah.
Like each section was a new problem.
Yeah.
Each training part was a problem. His diet, what he was going to do, and I just really I hear that.
Yeah, you break it down and then it becomes doable. But anyways, with all these insights, I was like, okay, with the free diving and with the relaxation techniques and slowing down the heart and it's, I call it meditation underwater, but it's really just like fine tuning. It's like a radio station. In our brain, we have different brain frequencies. We have our thoughts, but they're called like alpha, delta, gamma, beta. They're different frequencies, exactly like same as a radio. It's a frequency. It's a vibration. Yeah. A frequency is just in hertz, and then you can learn to tune into these different radio stations. And I call it meditation underwater because I go into this flow state, and we can talk much more about Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I was so honored to get to know him, the father of modern psychology, who also founded positive psychology with Martin Seligman and a few others. But he coined the term flow, and he looked at athletes and artists that go into this nerdy zone of flow and don't eat for days and don't know if it's night or day because they're so entrenched and just absorbed into that. So you become you merge with the action. So what you do, you become what you do, and that's a beautiful place to be because it's perfect and there's no time. So one of the greatest indicators of flow is there's no notion of time. Right. Like a great conversation that can be flow, or you're doing some sport, or you're very focused on painting something or getting the right tone or the right shade or something.
The way I always describe it to people is that seems like most people who aren't in this level of performance is when you're driving and you're just kind of, and you feel good, and then you just like forget how far you've gone. You pass your exit. That seems to be the most common state for people, right? Yeah. But for athletes and for performers or whatever it is, that I think I like to coin a phrase called a focused obsession. Yeah. Right. Because that it unlocks the ultimate attention. Yeah. To the smallest detail that you're creating.
Yeah, and at the same time, that's where you can have slow motion, like visions, and everything passes by, and like rock climbing and like every grip, and you're just so focused on that. So there's no yesterday or tomorrow. And that is one of the greatest things I found with breathing and breathwork, that it is here and now. It's your life force, and the way you breathe is the way you feel. So it is really the emotional state. And maybe the greatest breakthrough I had, or like that came to me, is like, okay, with breathing, we have the greatest tool to control our mind. Because if the mind was easy to control, we had no people with depression, we had no suicides, we had no anger, no fear, no war. We would just say, everything's okay, I'm doing great. But the brain or the mind is not a very good thing to use, or a smart strategy to control your mind. Obviously, it's just look around, right? But that is kind of the secret they found in yoga and meditation and mindfulness, that when you use a special breathing ratio or breathing pattern, then that becomes the focus point, the attention point. Maybe not at the level we're talking about now, but it can be.
But it can be, right?
In some of the higher levels of meditation, you have one focus point. But
with that same frequency, I remember there was that, I don't know if you ever saw that, they had a beautiful study Northwestern did. It's like 150 some monks from Tibet who would get into this altered state, flow state, just in meditation, right? Put them in temperatures that adjust.
I think I heard about this.
It's one of the best studies I've ever read about flow state.
Yeah.
And that for me was like, oh, wow, there is another level, right? There's of how far you can drive your mind because, and the thing that, like I listened to a couple other your great podcasts you've done in the past. One of the interviewers talked about fear with you, and fear obviously once you produce those stress hormones, and sometimes you don't even choose, it's just going to happen naturally. That disrupts all this other stuff. So I love how you've integrated Eastern philosophical meditation into these very intense, driven, ambitious feats of not an intellectual focus, physical focus, and certainly spiritual focus.
Yeah.
So can you describe how all those come together?
Yeah, I think just by the background of biology and being curious and looking at nature, it was kind of just a natural next step to try to put them together with the psychology and the performance. And because I was also in the medical field, we could actually get feedback. So like I said before with freediving, that was one of my greatest revelations. Like, it's just time or distance. So if you screw up something, then you'll see in the result. You don't hold your breath as long. Like, people can try it home on dry land, right?
Yeah.
And if you do something right, you breathe right, or do the stretching right, or your mind is right, like you have positive thinking or you go into a flow state, and anyone can do that. Anyone listening to this podcast can learn what we're talking about. It's not unattainable, but it takes work. But once you get there, it's so satisfying and it's so beautiful. And it's a wonderful place to be, kind of this absorbed place of playfulness, right? And Csikszentmihalyi, the man I was lucky to meet, and he loved the breath holding stuff. I had him do breath holding with his PhD students at Claremont Graduate University in California before he passed. But he has a whole interesting story in himself, so people can just look up flow. And Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, long story for the war, came from Hungary, then went to Italy, then escaped to America and became a professor and just was brilliant. But he studied flow and happiness.
Yes.
So it's very interesting to appreciate and understand that he also looked at happiness and how do you have a happy, good life, and that came from flow state, from being absorbed in your activities. So that was the connection he was studying. But anyways, back to your question here. It's fun to break down all these things in our lives that are like passion or hobby driven. And I found out quite early that, well, with freediving and breathwork, it can take you so far in your health and your performance. You can measure it. And so one of the greatest revelations was that, and I was lucky enough also to meet Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's like the father of modern mindfulness and mindfulness-based stress reduction, MSBR up in New York. And his son randomly knew me, and he's my age, or more or less my age. So I was teaching up in New York at the Omega Center, and randomly, Sir Jon Kabat-Zinn, I almost guess we could call him. He's a great, famous figure within modern psychology, and especially with veterans and using mindfulness for, stress release. One of the first to describe that, like a psychologist. And he was randomly hosting a seminar there, and I was going to teach in the same location an hour after. So I went in and I gave him my book, Breatheology, and I signed it. And his son then knew me. He said, well, I've seen you on Discovery Channel and National Geographic, and you were the first to hold your breath more than 20 minutes. And he went on and on like the best pitch ever. And I'm with this dad who's like this Superman of mindfulness. This super psychologist. I'm in awe. I'd written about him in my book. And I said, hey, I have you here. And, never met him. I'd met Csikszentmihalyi because I reached out to him during the process of writing the book, but I didn't reach out to that other guy, Kabat-Zinn. Then I meet him and his son knows all this stuff about me. I was so flattered and surprised. But anyways, then he said something. He said, because I have a business partner in Denmark who's very much with, connection and teams and like how you improve businesses. And I don't know much about that. I'm more with athletes and people. So he's a great partner and a great friend. Bjarne is his name. But he's very good with words. So he would do like mindfulness in meters, like you could measure mindfulness.
Oh, wow.
So that's not very easy to translate. So I told Sir Kabat-Zinn that, we use meditation because he uses mindfulness. So I called it meditation underwater, but my business partner called it meditation mindfulness by measure.
Oh, wow.
Because he's like the father of mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, I've never thought about that in my life. That's brilliant. So you can measure the level of mindfulness just by seconds. You hold your breath, or the depth or the distance you go,
right?
Which is true, right?
For sure.
It's a very crude, it's a very rough measurement stick.
Yeah.
But it's very easy.
Right.
And it never fails. It's always the same time.
Yep.
Like seconds are seconds.
Yep.
And meters or feet are feet. And if you do something right in your strategy, in your mental preparation, in your diet, in your anything, physical training, stretching, flexibility, body work, breath work, everything you do, if you do that right, you'll improve the seconds you hold your breath.
Yeah.
With less effort. And the meters, you'll go deeper or longer. So I think freediving or breath holding, you know, I did a TED talk many years ago called Breath Holding is the New Black, where I actually talk about veterans and all the sad statistics, and that we have done a lot of research because we have supported many veterans over the years, more than 10 years now. But that's a different story. I'm happy to come back to that because that needs more attention always. But it was just interesting to kind of be with this, phenomenal guy who was this expert in psychology and mindfulness. And then he had never thought about it from the perspective of holding your breath. And I think to me that was like just showing me the essence of what freediving can be, or breath holding. So when I did this TED talk, Breath Holding is the New Black, what I mean is that if you hold your breath, first of all, this is incredibly interesting, you know, it's just a pause. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and you could see already and feel now with the listeners out there or the viewers, there is this incredible stillness and this calmness. You can even hear my voice is calmer, right? Just for 5 seconds, breath hold. Because you stop whatever's going on, whatever in your head, we call it the monkey mind in yoga, like, oh, what am I doing tomorrow? Where am I going? Am I good enough? Can I do it? What happened yesterday? Why didn't you give me that? I got cheated. Why this, that? A lot of stuff that doesn't propel you forward. And it's noise. And it makes you not go into that focused place or that flow state because you have too much like going on. And in the yoga, they called it the monkey mind, like a little cheeky monkey, like running up and down the trees, doing naughty things.
Right.
Yeah. So with breath holding, so if we say freediving, that's just what I call it in general, but breath holding can also be on land. That's not freediving, right? But it's kind of training. Freediving is going deep in the water, basically on a pool, but I call all breath holding freediving kind of. But if we just say breath holding, then people know what I mean. And with breath holding, there is so much untapped potential. Breath work is becoming very fashionable now. We had mindfulness, we had meditation pave the road, and I saw this. That's why I wrote the book Breathology 15 years ago or more. But it wasn't fashionable. Then Wim Hof came along and it got more attention. Cold water exposure, but Wim Hof is more like hyperventilation, more active.
Yeah.
It's not maybe so much to calm
when I
down.
went and started looking at your stuff, I found it really different than Wim Hof's. It was much more of like you said, there's an intensity about the.
Yeah, it's more like a pranayama. It's more like the intense. Also, if you're cold and in ice, you want to breathe fast.
Yeah.
To get the temperature up and the blood circulating. So that's a natural way for doing this. Tumo, it's called Tumo, where you sit in the ice. And I trained in India several times and have 2 gurus there that taught me 2 masters as well. But I just, because of my nerdy background in science, I like to dig in with scientific backed explanations and what happened. So, you know, like you explained before, the parasympathetic and sympathetic, in case people don't know that, the sympathetic is also what we call fight and flight. So that's the activating thing. That's what's activated during hyperventilation and screaming and running. And that is a good thing in the sense that it pumps adrenaline out and you get, you know, ready, or you get blood to your muscles and you can run or fight. That's why it's called fight and flight. But it's not a healthy and good place to be for months and months. And that's why people die from stroke or, you know.
Why veterans struggle.
Well, just a lot of things, you know, it's on overdrive.
Right.
So with breath holding, you have a beautiful, free, always available source of going into the parasympathetic part. Of course, with normal breathing, also slow breathing, slow exhale. So if you want the number 1 tip or the first tip of the podcast today, then the best tip I have is the key to relaxation is in the exhalation. Again, the nose is for breathing, the mouth is for eating. So always use the nose to get that nitrogen oxide, filter the air, get it up high to the brain, connect with the brain, tell your body, tell your mind that you're in control, you're breathing, you're alive, it's beautiful, you're grateful, everything is wonderful. And your brain listens and your body knows it.
Do you have that conversation with yourself?
Yeah, also with my heart. When I hold my breath for 20 minutes, I have a deep, intimate conversation about my heart, and I don't command it, but I ask it kindly to beat softer. It's not just the heart rate, like the pulse per minute or the beat per minute.
It's the electricity, it's the contractility.
It's almost
of the
like,
atrium.
if I should explain it to people, it's almost like a jellyfish. Everybody has seen a jellyfish, either in the ocean or on television, right? This kind of soft, alien movement that is so like almost like a ballerina dancing, floating freely in space, like in without gravity, right? And so I have my heart chambers go into kind of this soft feeling, and I know when I connect with my heart and feel the softness that my breath hold will be long.
Oh, wow.
So it's also a positive affirmation. Oh, now it is soft, so it will be longer. Then it becomes longer. Then the heart learns. It's called conditioned response. Conditioned response. Pavlov was the first Russian scientist who studied dogs, and he would ring a bell, and he would give them food, and they would drool.
Pavlov.
And then he would just not give them food, but still ring the bell, and they would still drool, and he would collect how much saliva came out, and so that's called a conditioned response. So a response to something that you associate, in this case with food, but then the bell was the sound that associated, now we're going to get food. So I need to produce saliva. And just talking about it, I produce saliva just talking about food, right?
Can you talk about how humans can condition a response then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like you just were talking about it, like the active, the conscious engagement with the natural processes and getting to that, what is it, that natural symbiotic state where your brain and your heart and your lungs and
you're
your
just connecting what's there.
Connected,
you're connecting what's there, and you revisit, and you kind of introduce, this interconnectedness with yourself just at a deeper level, or maybe a new experience. And again, that's why I think breathwork and especially breath holding, but I'm biased, I'm really a fan of this breath holding, but also the safety measurement. So again, never hold your breath alone underwater, but on dry land, it's fine. Even if you pass out, nothing's going to happen. You're going to wake up, the body takes over. If you're on the couch or, at home in the morning before breakfast, you want to push it 3 or 4 breath holds in a row. I have something called the 7-day breath hold challenge. So people can go and find it. It's completely free.
Yeah, please
We've
talk
spent
about
many years, and we have Navy SEALs who love about it.
And then talk about breathology, and then
well, the breath hold challenge, I didn't want to pitch anything, but
please. I want listen, if this inspires you at all, like go to his channel, consume his material, and start doing the work. I mean, it's like, other than buying your book, like it's all free, right? And
we have Freedom paid program, of course. We also have an instructor program with people from all around the world becoming breathwork or breathology instructors. But we only do it once a year to kind of keep that cohort
for sure,
and my energy and focus and other things I do. But anyways, the 7-day breath hold challenge is kind of the ultimate way that we have designed a program where you in 7 days, we hope, can double your breath holds.
Wow.
And I think it's phenomenal if you can do anything, whether you double your revenue or your push-ups or your bench press or speed of running, or there are many things we cannot physically double in a week, right? But mentally we can double or triple or quadruple. We can take Tiger Leap, we can take that quantum leap. And so for me, besides of getting to know your body and your heart and connecting with your heart and having this inner dialogue and getting to know how to tune those frequencies in the radio, so go into delta, gamma, beta, into those meditation frequencies where there's no time restraint and you're just kind of floating and doing what you love. To that element as well is knowing your body better, so you can go into this parasympathetic part, which is the rest and digest. So that is where you literally digest food experiences, thoughts, impressions throughout the day. That will give you a better night's sleep. It will give you a deeper REM sleep. It will, talking about conditioning and good habits, it will really take something you do every day anyways, but maybe have bad habits before bedtime or too much on the, blue light and devices and just keeping your brain busy, eating too close to going to bed and being too active or agitated or reading bad news that's not going to help you for the night's sleep. You can wait till the next day to open that email. Little things like that you can change, and like, again, stacking and doing many little things will have a great outcome. So with breath holding, I think it's beautiful because it gives you a pause. You can do it anywhere. You can do it on the train. You can do it, 5-10 seconds, and it gives you time to reflect, and it teaches you about your body and how amazing your body is. And that is one of the greatest things I love in my teaching. I call myself a teacher. People call me a coach, but whatever. A trainer, a teacher, to show this, unlimited, basically, potential that we all have. And I really don't want people to think that I'm this superhuman, or Discovery crowned me the superhuman when I then moved it to 22 minutes, I should correctly said. I moved the record to 21 minutes and 22 minutes breath hold, 22:00. And I was crowned the ultimate superhuman on Discovery by that. But I don't want to have a gap between what people think I do and they cannot do it. I'm not saying everyone can hold their breath for 22 minutes, but they can do much more. You can do much more than you think or believe, right? And it's all about the process. I call it baby steps, this process, breaking it down in doable steps. And then you get to that level. Then it's almost like a computer game. I don't play computer games, but it's almost like these levels, right? I really don't. I was never interested in sitting down and playing computers. So I'm horrible at it if I should try. But like Pac-Man or whatever, all these levels, you unlock new levels. And once you reach the level of anything in life, a skill, skill development, then you cannot unlearn it. It's kind of like we say in Denmark, like riding the bike, because we all have bikes, right?
Right.
I think you're saying in the US the same, like, you learn to ride the bike, you don't forget it.
Right.
It's a nervous system, muscular balance, brain coordination thing. It's a skill. So I love to show people the fascinating body they have, this amazing machinery that you can, learn to drive.
Right.
But sadly in school, we don't learn to drive. Like I said, I also grew up in Florida. I was so blessed to have PE, physical education. We learned a little bit about muscles and, triceps and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine, but you don't learn how to manage the body. And nobody teaches you how to breathe. And that is the source of life. And we don't have to discuss this, and you don't need to be a genius or a, professor to figure out that
metaphysic, anything.
Without breathing, you don't go very far. It's like a few minutes, it's over.
And that's it.
Food, water, okay. Love, relationships, intimate moments, you can go for a longer time, but breathing, few minutes, you're kind of out of it. So breathing is so important, and that's what we need to bring back into this hectic modern life. And it's really free for everyone. So like I said, with the Breath Hold Challenge, it's 7 days where people have access to everything online, videos, new video every day, unlocks the new exercises. But it's actually a 7-day condensed breathing program where they learn all the best exercises from nose breathing, ujjayi breathing. I talk about the inner dolphin. So that is something when I come back maybe another time, or we have a part 2, we can talk much more about how you unlock the inner dolphin. I'd love to do part 2, and we include going to a pool. Yeah. Right? And then we can talk about the unlocking and really breath holding specifically. Right. And then we can maybe go out to the ocean. Yeah. And we can explore that a little bit. Because then it's more tangible. Right. We're there. Yes. Yeah. And that would be wonderful. Because to unlock that, so it's a cliffhanger. Yeah. Thank you, Rainbow. Yeah. Thank you, Sly. So, unlocking that inner dolphin, that beautiful mammalian dive response that we all have. That's kind of the point I wanted to make. Everyone listening or seeing this show, this great David Rutherford show, have the same nervous system, the same 12 cranial nerves. They have the 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve, that runs from the back of your brain near the cerebellum, where you have your equilibrium and your kind of motor skills. And it sends roots through next to your carotid artery in the vagus nerve. It's like the highway of the rest and digest. So this parasympathetic, this kind of long name, parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. And with breath work and slow exhale, like I said, The key to relaxation is in the exhalation. Slow exhale through the mouth, that's fine, but inhale with the nose. You trigger the vagus nerve. You turn it on. You stimulate it. And that will lower your heart rate. You soften your voice. Imagine what it does for a team when you have to give an important message or on a crucial mission, or, business-wise, getting your message across to all the people that need to understand the assignment, and be part of the team or the project or the mission. But also the fact that you can slow down your monkey mind, which is not very easy with the mind, like we just discussed, but with breathing, it's automatic. And it gives this stillness to the body, and it gives, so you'd ask me about conditioning. This is conditioning your body to tap into that nervous system that is not so well known, because we live in a very hectic, overdrive world, in the sympathetic world, in the stress world. So the beautiful thing about it is it's like a forked system. So a biforked system. So you cannot be in both systems at the same time. Of course, some areas of the system side work in different areas of your body, right? But if you go into rest and digest, you shut down the adrenaline, the cortisol, what we would call the stress hormones that give you poor sleep at night. You gain weight. A lot of people gain weight when they're stressed because adrenaline and cortisol give them then bad food choices, and it's often fat or burgers or sugar or cravings, and then you eat too much and before bed, and then you don't go out and work out. You wanted to, but then you don't, but then you feel bad that you didn't work out, and then you eat some more chocolate. It's just a vicious circle. Very easy to understand, very complex to break habits, right? But psychologically easy to understand. But with breath holding, I've seen so many people lose weight as well and improve their night sleep, improve sleep apnea, falling asleep faster, staying longer in the REM sleep, so the recovery sleep pattern that really makes the body strong for the next day, heal you if you're sick. And breath holding is just such an unknown, untapped activity, and it's right there, and it is actually part of the yoga. It's just not so known, in the pranayama they talk about the different ways of holding your breath with full lungs, empty lungs. I don't want to nerd too much on it. People can read it in the book. I go into great detail in the Breathology book. It's on Amazon, so it can be found easily. But really, you can learn to navigate your body better. And if we taught kids at school how to navigate the breathing and the breath holding and the pause and not react at and fight, for example, for boys, and not react to a stimulus, but kind of be more, passive and look at it. And it's not what's happening to me, it's happening around me, or, but I'm the one responsible for how I react. So that is really, really healing. And also for like veterans and people I've worked with trauma and high levels of stress, when you see that power implanted or instilled in you that you can make the decision. Wow. I can shut off the monkey mind. I can shut off the chatter from the past, that kind of vinyl record that just goes in the same ring. It blew up, or it was my fault, or this happened, or my family, or whatever. You can break that pattern. And with breath holding, you just have a beautiful invitation to go into new passages of your nervous system, and especially that parasympathetic area that you might have not been visiting for many years. Not consciously, at least, right? So we don't train relaxation, we train stress in everyday city life, right? A busy life is mostly doing and being active, and you're always late for something, and you need to rush up and hurry to do more, but it's actually often, less is more. So I think we're in an interesting crossroad now with everything with social media, AI, all the things going on around the world, where people start to both questioning authorities and how can I stay as healthy as possible, but also like finding answers. And also with, potential wars or survival, or, having a shelter or learning survival skills. Like, people are more open-minded to taking responsibility for their own lives. And with safety, with protection. And I see this clearly also now that people, actually younger people, often very successful entrepreneurs, and when I say younger, I mean people in their 20s or 30s that have either made a lot of money or they're building companies, incredible feats, but they're so stressed out. And the difference between those that new generation and people 20 years ago, or my generation, or my parents' generation, where you never complained, and there was not even a word called stress. You didn't call in for work like, I'm stressed, I'm having a headache.
I need a me day.
You just went to work, right? And so this younger generation is actually interested in investing in themselves and learning.
Yeah,
we could say more holistic approaches to health. And performance. And they see the parallel between the performance in their health and being a better leader in their company and in their own family or their own life, and the productivity and the outcome of the company. So the bottom line and the financial success, right? So there's an interesting time now where more and more people are taking the responsibility and control back. And I think breathwork is one of the easiest and most formidable ways of doing just that.
Yeah.
Because you can do it anywhere. People don't know how, where you do it or why you do it, or, you can even sit on the car or on the plane and do your breath work. You don't even have to close your eyes. You can do it subtly or connecting with your heart, make it soft. Nobody knows that you're sitting and doing that. Sure, you're not like a yoga freak or having scents or anything, candles around and all this. You're just, or incense, you're just but you do some magic stuff inside, and that is conditioning. So you're conditioning your body for good habits, and that's why I like to identify, as I mentioned in the beginning, these bad habits or poor habits in people, and then changing them into good habits so they do the same. Like breathing, we all breathe. So I'll give people a chance to guess, how many times do you think you breathe every day? Right? Great question. This is what everybody should know. This is the most important thing in our lives. Breathing. For sure, hands down, there's nothing more important.
Right.
Not your parents, not your dog, not your car, not your bank account, your crypto account, nothing. Breathing. Yet we're not taught how to breathe, right? As kids. And imagine if you could go to the exam or the test without stress, or when you're bullied, how do you react? And so I'm a big proponent of all that. I support a school in Cambodia, and our common friend, the Jorgensens, also support these 250 kids. And we teach them breathing, and we teach them how to clean up plastic, and they're having a garden now and growing vegetables, so connecting with earth and nature, and we teach them about the body. So it's never too late. The answer is 20, 30,000 times a day we breathe, so why not breathe optimally? Why not learn, like I said, drive the car? Why not learn how to drive your body? And it's really not difficult. It just starts with simple breathing exercises. And then there is a whole new universe going into the mindset, going into your diet, going into high performance, like the world you come from, military, sports, business, and then going into altered states of mind, going into maybe more psychedelic experiences or more full universal experiences. You can call them many things, but it unlocks so many new doors, and then you can go through those doors and new worlds unfold, and like I said, it's totally free and it's safe. Breathwork. So it's no wonder that it's becoming popular, but it just needs to be done in a structured way. Find someone that you trust or that sound trustworthy, not too dramatic or like too like it's a theater show, or like it's breathwork. Unfortunately, it has become like over popularized, if that's even a word. Everybody's an expert now. And everybody's a breath master. Apparently, when I click on Facebook, there's like 12 programs. Like it's just kind of flooded with experts everywhere. So, find a person or a school or a direction that you like, try that out. And then, of course, what we do in Breatheology is we try to bring all the elements from high performance, cutting edge science, and timeless wisdom. Those are the three pillars of Breatheology. And that is, again, based just in my natural curiosity and what I was interested in, because I also did judo, I did martial arts, I was the Danish champion twice in martial arts in my younger years as well. So it's just been things I've picked up, and I've seen these are solid pillars. And if we have three pillars, it's not rocking the boat, it's stable, it stands firm. And on top of those three areas of knowledge and experiential doing, like you have to feel it in your body, I built the Breatheology platform. So we also explained the science behind why you should breathe with your nose, as we talked about, the Nobel winning people that explained, the alveoli open, the smooth muscle tissue relaxes and the blood vessels dilate, the mammalian dive response when you hold your breath, slow your heart rate, You change the way the blood is circulating in your body. You change the patterns of your brain. You shift into different stages, which I call meditation underwater, right? This radio channel. All these things are doable by everyone listening here. And the beautiful thing about breathwork and when you train breathing is that it also helps you at night because you create good habits.
Right.
Again, you condition your nervous system, you rewire it to work more optimally. And when you sleep at night, it still works better, which is why you get more rest and you wake up, like a baby. Same with running, kind of, right? When I have to give an example, kind of a silly example, I just always give this example. When you run, then you stop after half an hour, after 5 miles. But it's not like the running is not still in you. It still helps you with, digesting food, breaking down fat, keeping you energetic during the day, and at night, because your heart gets stronger, you have more solid, deep sleep. Right. So just because you stop running doesn't mean you don't have a post follow-up effect, right? And it's the same with breath work. The effect on your nervous system, on your brain, on your hormones, which are produced or not produced, or at least released or not released, like adrenaline is a hormone, stress hormone. All that is something you can influence. And that is probably the most overlooked aspect of modern medicine, that we can tap into these, what you call the autonomous nervous system, meaning the self-running or self-ruling system. And that is maybe, one of the biggest secrets of yoga, that you can tap into those nervous threads and go into your heart and go into your digestion. And that is also why you can influence weight loss from breath work and from priming yourself and from making better decisions on the foods you eat, the nutrients you get. But that follows the condition you do with breathing. When you become more in touch with yourself, then you also know what is right for you or not, what you need, what you don't need. And when you then learn to hold your breath, my mission with breath holding is not that everybody should go diving under ice or do crazy stuff, and especially never dive alone, but it is to teach people very simply. I'm a not very smart guy, so I like the simple stuff. Make it very simple. So I want to tell people that they can learn to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. That is the takeaway message. That is why people should do breath holding. Then there's a multitude of benefits of the strengthened blood, more hemoglobin, EPO production from the bone marrow, short-term benefits from the spleen contracting, from the mammalian dive response, long-term effects because you have a higher hemoglobin load, so you have more binding capacity, which some people also cheat when they take EPO, so in sports, right? But you can do it naturally. I call it natural doping from breath work, and especially breath holding. You can do it, and you can simulate high-altitude training. You do it with intermittent hypoxic training and breath holds, and you can do CO2 tables, oxygen tables. But basically what you do is you get everything, the mitochondria and everything in your body and your cells on their tippy toes. Whether you eat, don't eat, so fasting for 3 days, 5 days, like, the body goes, what's going on? Ketogenesis, burn something else, break down the fat. Okay, we're still alive. Oh, I get clarity now in my brain. Oh, I could do it. You unlock a new level. Oh, I could go 5 days without eating. I didn't die. I thought I would, because I live in a society where we eat 12 times a day, and that's normal, and that's what you're taught as a baby. But you can go for a month without food.
I just had a buddy
not
40-day fast.
Month. Yeah, a month. Yeah. But a week is normal. I go usually a week, from weekend to weekend, 130 hours. And I just drink water and a little drop of lime juice or lemon juice. But so fasting or cold water exposure or holding your breath, those are all the main extremes for the body and the mind. So with breath holding, you don't need to go and jump in cold water or, find a lake or something. And you can do it anywhere. And it's provoking your body, and it's creating fear. Back to that. I don't know if we caught up on the fear, but I don't really feel fear. I never was really
I didn't
fearful.
get a sense that but we don't need to cover that.
No, that's fine. But I'm not really a fearful person. I'm not really afraid of anything. And either I'm very dumb, or I'm just naive, or very blessed, or I don't know. I've had a lucky life.
Maybe it's all the breathing.
Yeah, but I'm really not afraid of many things. The only thing I'm afraid of is losing a loved one. That's my biggest fear, of course. I I guess it is for most people. But I've never been afraid of like hurting my leg, or in freediving, we're very cautious about the safety. And so another thing, maybe when people see this superhuman stuff and under ice diving, don't go and do it without training. But I train all these baby steps and years and years and years and drill and drill and drill, just like you do.
Tell us right now.
So I feel safe when I do it. And I don't feel it's risky, but people seeing it thinks it's extreme or stupid, maybe.
It's outside of their comfort zone, right? And that generates...
Or what they can understand. That's what they can appreciate.
And so tell us just recently, because, a lot of times when people move into these extreme endeavors, there's a stage in their life, and then they move beyond it and they become teachers like you've done. But you're still very connected to the community. And would you let's close on that recent experience you just had?
Yes.
Because that story you told me before, and that relationship is one of the coolest things that I've heard in a long time.
Yeah. Well, I love to teach. I would say I'm a born teacher. I love to create results in other people, and I love to be this kind of childish guy, like showing your body is just absolutely phenomenal. Look at what you can do, whether it's lifting the diaphragm or lowering the pulse and all this stuff. So I just came back also for the Come on Your Fine podcast here. Just came back 2 days ago from Dominica, which is a small island down in the Caribbean between Guadeloupe and Martinique. And we were having 2 weeks of competition back-to-back in freediving. So in deep diving, this was deep diving, not breath holding, not swimming in the surface, deep diving into the blue,
abyss.
Yeah. Alongside, I was lucky to go the last day with sperm whales and pilot whales.
Oh, wow.
I was blessed.
Beautiful.
I have such a privileged life. I know, I'm so spoiled. And the week before, I flew from Miami to Tulum, which is down in Mexico, and I joined forces with Alexei Molchanov, hands down the best freediver in the world. There's no discussion. People can just look him up. Besides being a phenomenal athlete, he's just a really, really all-around great guy. I competed with Alexei the first time in 2005. He just turned 18, so he could enter the World Championship. I got lucky. I won. I was a bit older and more experienced, but that's the time I talked about before, 2003, 4, 5, when I was at my prime, around 30, and I trained very hard for a long time. And Alexei's mom was the greatest freediver of all time. Her name was Natalia Molchanova, and never before or after has anyone come close. There are a few female divers now that are contenders, but nobody has unlocked that level. Yeah. She died, unfortunately, just a few years ago in Spain during a training session. She disappeared, maybe the current, we don't know. They never recovered the body, which is probably, Alexis told me he's glad they never found the body. By the way, he just released a movie on Amazon, on Prime, I think, called Freediver. Easy to remember.
It's a beautiful movie.
Freediver.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
You will see the relationship with his mom. It was his greatest coach, his love, his mentor, and they had this beautiful connection and this relationship. It is a beautiful movie, and so I was part of that because when I started setting my world records, Natalia did. So we kind of had this in common. And I always liked Alexei. And then in 2006, we competed on the national level for the teams. And Denmark won for the first time ever. I was like a flying coach. I was on the team and I was the coach. Yeah, but in little sports like we talked about, you don't have money for coaches or like national this and that. You're just your own coach with the national team. I think we paid our own towels to even, at that level, right? It's just a hobby. I've never got rich from freediving, just so people don't misunderstand anything. And then in 2007, we competed side by side. And again, I got lucky. I won. He got the silver. So actually both in all these years, we're in the same, when we had the medals and stuff. And we were competitors, but it was also very friendly. And I've always liked Alexei. And today, he's developed into a man. He's 38, a young man, very childish still, like I am, I guess. But this playfulness, he has a son now, Max, who's 5. So, he's passing on this great heritage of sport. But he was super active. We have a very similar background. He started swimming at the age of 5, got into other sports as well. And just so I had the world record in the deepest dive, this 200 feet dive. And Alexei has basically all records in the world. He has 42 world records now, but he never had it in the unassisted, the one where you just swim down in breaststroke. And I thought I could help him on that because I had the record before, and that's kind of my specialty. So we reconnected last year. He's a member of the Explorers Club in New York, a recent member. I've been a member for many years because we've kind of moved the limits for mankind. So before, exploration was more the Explorers Club is a phenomenal club.
It's one of the greatest clubs ever invented.
It is in the world, and it's it's exploration of land and space and ocean, and it's also protection of animals and learning about cultures and respecting nature and uncovering historic events and like really just understanding mankind and protecting what we have to our best ability. Phenomenal club. And Alexei, I met him there and I took him to some fire walking at one of the crazy members of the club's private house, a wild party and just some really, really extraordinary people. And everyone just with crazy stories. So it's it's just a wild place. Yeah. Everybody has but everybody's calm because it's like,
everybody has some story.
Yeah. So anyway, so we reconnected, and then the last year we started connecting more, and then the last 3 months we connected more, and then on WhatsApp I started coaching a little bit. He sent videos, I would give pointers. And I think it is so wonderful to see an athlete at the top of his game, the best in the world.
By far, yeah.
You can just see any video, one video, you will know without knowing about freediving that he is the cream de la cream.
Yeah.
His style, it's impeccable. The strength, the flexibility, everything he has developed over, since he was a young kid, right?
Yeah.
But still to be open-minded to an old dinosaur like me,
Well, that's the thing.
I call myself Granny. Granddad moves in and I'm joking. And
one, it's the respect, the mutual respect.
Yeah.
Two, it's the recognition that you always need help, even if you're the best of the best. To be open to...
And we all know, also Alexei and you, I guess, without knowing you so much personally, and myself, it's hard for us, women and men, but maybe especially men, to ask for help.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
It's a common thing,
for
right?
sure.
So to be able to do that and then nerd on those things, and
he broke the world record.
He broke the world record on Monday, this Monday. So
he had a blackout 2 days before, a bad one, right?
That was with the no fin. So we changed styles. We're talking about again. Talking about victories or success or failure. He still didn't manage the record. He was too tired and fatigued from a full year of training and traveling and being in so many places. He runs also multi-genre freediving, so developing equipment, high level, and he just has a lot on his plate. But he manages all this brilliantly. His energy, his mental focus, not negative energy, he just cuts it out. But we changed tactics, and he did the deepest dive in the world. 416 feet, so 127 meters with bifin. So people in Florida or people spearfishing knows his little flip-flops, little fins. They're a bit longer, his fins, but they were fiberglass, not carbon fiber.
Oh, wow.
So really, really impressive. And it's the height of the Statue of Liberty, so people just have an understanding. The dive almost took 5 minutes.
It's insane.
Swimming nonstop, sinking down and then swimming up. 4:43 was the time.
It's insane.
Yeah, people can find it online.
And you were there in support
right there,
of
and
this.
I was coaching him in the water and what to say. And so again, you have this incredible responsibility of not screwing it up.
Yes.
Because if I say something wrong or touch him, he's disqualified. So there are so many, it's like really... split seconds that you really need to be very focused and know what to do and have the experience. So he recognized I also have this. And we just had people writing in, it's so great to see you guys together again. And wow, this is awesome. This is inspirational. And I was surprised, being this old geezer, that a lot of the younger generation of freedivers had either read my book or had it with them on Kindle.
Yeah.
One had showed me a picture that I signed for them 10 years ago.
That's cool.
At DEMA, which is like a dive show, the biggest dive show in the world. And he said, you showed us this. And now we have a dive shop in Florida. We take people spearfishing and we show them freediving it's just fun to be appreciated, and it's great to see that there's still development, and then to be with the freediving community. So, but maybe just to end on that with Alexei, how do you see if an athlete is great or the highest level? So. We would train more than anybody else there. We would train 3 or 4 times a day, flexibility, strength, looking very much at the diet, cutting things out because he got like some bad infection. That's one of the reasons he had the blackout as well. Mm-hmm. So cut it out, change the diet, went to only bottled water. So dialing everything in. Then some more muscle training again to wake up the muscle for the glycogen process and for like awakening the muscles. He's kind of bulked, so he needed that. And just listening to his strong intuition, like I need some more bulk training. I need some more fitness training. Okay, we do that. Do some squats, do some weight training. And then we worked a lot on his knees and opening the flex, the hips. And so some challenges he's had with that, changed his style. And And then every day we would also go at sunset and swim in the ocean when nobody else was there into the darkness just to drill. And he would like drills exercises. And then when he had the competition dives, he would swim out to the platform.
That's amazing.
As the only diver of all 50 or 60 divers.
Yeah.
And he would even swim back after the blackout I just told you, right?
Unbelievable.
No other diver would do that.
No.
It's not that they couldn't do it, but they wouldn't have the mental capacity. They wouldn't think, because there's a boat that takes the athletes in.
Yeah.
But he's just like, no. And that is also like reinforcing that strength that, okay, I had a blackout, I failed, it went bad, but I'll get back, at it. And I'll swim in and I'll stretch tonight, and tomorrow I'll change my diet and I'll look at the dive and I'll analyze it with Stig and we'll change something. And, so it's just always finding that extra level of unlocking a potential and just, I like to call it stacking, right?
Yes.
So for example, one day I came to Alex's room and he was very sore because we had played table tennis like crazy, like an hour and a half the night before. He was sore in his lower back and he hardly couldn't bend down. So he was brushing his teeth. And at the same time, of course, he did stretching. So again, stacking, like you do things, but you can be very productive if you do things in a smart way that you have to do anyways, but you stack them together. And again, then the outcome is faster and better. So it was just, extraordinary to be so close to him again and with him and see why he's at the top of his game. What distinguishes him from, there were many other great freedivers, continental records, American records, really great. And another girl, Kate Katarina, did 2 world records in the no fin. She got that record.
Wow.
In the female category.
Yeah.
And to watch her and to get to talk with her and nerd about technique and style, so fulfilling and fun.
Man.
Yeah.
Stig, obviously I could sit here and listen to you for days. I mean,
I think people will fall asleep, but we'll take them in the water next time. That's maybe more interesting.
Well,
take them under the surface.
I mean, I think everybody's interested in what drives people, for sure. Everybody, I think, has a curiosity for, how'd you do it, obviously. And then I think when you can articulate it in a way that's genuine and really comes from that place of dedication and confidence and sincerity, like people can feel that. And I think you certainly have that.
Well, thank you.
It's been such a pleasure getting to know you. It's such an honor to have you on the show. Where can people follow you? Where can they buy the book? And what do you have coming up next?
Well, Breathology is a brand, it's a method, so it's easy whether you spell it the other one way or the other. I have all the domains, so don't worry about it. But there's an E in the middle, Breatheology, like breatheology, like biology. That's the idea. I think people get it. So I got that domain, I got the registered trademark, I got everything. So they can just kind of write Breathology or Stig, S-T-I-G, like the driver, like in this crazy car show, Top Gear. It's very popular in Europe. And his name is Stig. So sometimes I say I am the Stig, with the helmet. But they can find it online. We have social media, but Breathology, spell it whatever way you want. And people can find me, Stig Severinsen. I'm the only one, bald, crazy Danish Viking, and Stig Freediving. They'll find me. It's easy. And then for the 7-day breath hold challenge, they can just write 7-day breath hold challenge or breath hold challenge. It comes up as number 1 on Google. And that is actually a full-blown week breathwork program, completely free. We have thousands and thousands of people joining. And like I said during the interview here, we aim to double people's breath hold in a week, maybe triple it.
Wow.
But just doing that and learning to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. So just to explain the whole idea why I want this when we wrap it up now is that I want people to use that in their everyday life.
Yes.
It has to be extrapolated into people's day and implemented in their life, whether they're having an argument with the wife, screaming kids, angry with the boss, going for a job interview, having that exam. If you're a kid, you're nervous, getting bullied, military, high performance, sport athletes, business people, whatever level, you always have breathing with you as your best friends at this ninja skill. And you can learn to train different breathing ratios and different styles. Like I said, just follow some people online that you trust. There are many different schools, many great ways. There's Patrick McEwen called the Oxygen Advantage. I never met him, but that's also a very science-based approach. Wim Hof, I think, is a little bit more like woo-woo, or more like do some push-ups and breathe fast and then go in cold shower, but it's very simplistic, so it's easy to start there.
Right.
But if you want to go deeper into the rabbit hole and understand the anatomy and physiology and psychology and how it all wraps together, then maybe you want to go in another direction. There's also holotropic breathwork by Stanley Groff. He was very much into also altered states of mind and LSD. He's a psychologist. I trained with him.
Oh, wow.
It's called rebirthing. So that's also more of this trauma release.
Ooh, interesting.
And it's very intense and hyperventilation, but it's not really for everyday practice.
Yeah.
It's more like a process, and you draw a mandala, like colors of what you saw and things like that. So there are many styles and many directions in breath work. It's kind of like yoga. There's, Ashtanga yoga, power yoga, Jnana yoga, there's yin yoga, there's all these styles, but people just have to find their own way. And I think if you go to Breathology, we have, free programs, free training, and the breath hold challenge is a good way to start because it's 7 days, so it's doable for anyone. And the other thing, besides explaining that you can implement this in your everyday life, these techniques, these conditioning responses, these habits, these good habits, is also that I'm not special, I've trained, I've dedicated, like you have done incredible things, but that comes with a lot of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. But I don't want to distance myself so people think that bridge is uncrossable, right? Superhuman this and unattainable. Yeah. Like you can attain it and you can obtain great things, but you have to start with baby steps, and it starts with curiosity and an open mind. And doing breath work, breathing in through the nose, slight pause, having 4 phases in a breathing cycle, breathing in, slight pause, turn the breath, letting go, like a sigh. And then slight pause again. That's the 3rd phase. And then you inhale. Right. So it's like the whole process of breathing becomes a natural thing that you train with your awareness. So you sit down for 2 minutes and do it in the car or before you go to a meeting, and you have a completely different outlook at what's in front of you and the world, maybe even, right? And that inner journey of connecting with your mind and kind of fighting that urge to breathe when you go into breath holding is fun and interesting. And it's great for your lung capacity. So people with post-COVID, lung cancer, asthma, allergies, it's just a great way to reinforce and strengthen your lungs and your vital capacity, becoming more flexible, getting a stronger diaphragm. And there are tons of exercises in Breathology. There's a book you also asked. So Breathology is explaining in great detail with diagrams and paintings and like illustrations and medical proof and referencing scientific papers, how you train your diaphragm and what it does and what muscles are involved. And it's like a little a cookbook. It's like step-by-step process breathing book, and a lot of examples of how people have used it. And people can just find it on Amazon. There's probably some pirate copies out there of the online PDF, and I don't mind, whatever you find, write Breathology, and maybe there's a digital copy as well.
Wonderful.
And I don't care how people find it, as long as it just start.
Amen.
Yes.
Stig.
Pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.